Shadows on Media. This is Coming Out Stories. It's a podcast about one of the most important conversations of your life. I'm Emma Goswell. It's time now to hear from Richard.
Well, I sort of knew that I was different about the age of 7. There was, this real feeling that I kind of had an attachment to other boys. It certainly wasn't sexual in any way, shape or form. It was emotional attachments. And I kind of had this strong sense that, I was kind of different from other kids because of the way that I felt. And I remember seeing, I'm not sure what TV show it was, but there was a TV show on in which one of the characters, a lad, came out to his family. And it was a comedy show, and his family were all kind of making fun of him and stuff. But I remember when he said the word, I thought, that's what I am. Now, on this show, the word that they used was homo. So I thought, yeah, that's me. I'm a homo, because he's talking about kind of liking other guys and stuff. And again, it wasn't sexualized. It was very much about feelings, having feelings for someone of the same gender. And I kind of knew then, and that was in primary school. And at the same time, I knew to keep it quiet. Every instinct told me to keep it quiet because people wouldn't understand and people wouldn't get it. It's almost like it was something that felt so natural to me to have to hide it.
Were there other people getting bullied then? Was that the problem? Were there other people saying things?
I think what was happening with some of the boys in school was that they were being called names. So they were being called sort of female names, and those female names were, kind of casting aspersions to their sort of sexual identity, so stuff like homo was, homo and queer and bent and that kind of stuff was being used a lot in the playground. I think also part of not wanting to tell anybody was knowing that it was out of the normal, and I really, really wanted to fit in. I wanted to be like a regular kid. I didn't want to stand out. I didn't want to, stick out from the ordinary. And the main reason for that is because, I'm a black guy. Both my parents are from the east coast of Africa, and, I was born in the UK. And I just really wanted to fit in, and I thought, wow, I can't really tell anybody about me being gay because I'm already trying to fit in as a black kid, and I was going to primary school. That was a majority white primary school, so I thought, I don't want to create any more differences because there's already a visible difference already.
And tell us a bit about your religion or your family's religion as well, because that was another aspect to you not really wanting to come out as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my parents are both Muslims and they raised me and my brothers to be Muslims, and it was so important, having that faith, having to go to mosque on a regular basis every Friday, going to Arabic school as well, sort of locally, and sort of learning the Quran and kind of Islamic teachings as well. And I guess my parents became less devout for a couple of years, but then returned back to being really, really devout. And so the belief that I had as a 7-year-old was that I wasn't right with God. It didn't feel right with God because I'd heard comments made in the mosque, and I'd seen stuff on TV as well where it wasn't okay to be Muslim and be gay, and that the way that I was feeling was in some way against God. It was against the kind of normal things in life, that I'd been taught about through my faith. So I almost felt like I was a real disappointment, not only to my parents, but also in terms of that relationship I had with God, that I was almost kind of letting God down sort of thing, and that I wasn't right or I wasn't normal. I think the faith was a very, very important part of my life. As a Muslim, I find that you can draw tremendous strength and certainty from belief. But I didn't feel strong back then. I felt so terribly confused and very, very conflicted, really. And I guess because of my faith, I tried to hide my sexual and emotional identity as someone who was gay. I tried to pretend it wasn't there. I was kind of hoping it would go away, but it seemed to just kind of be there.
So you obviously hid it for some time. At what point in your life did it change, and why did it change, and why did you eventually manage to have that conversation with people?
I guess it was going to, high school, really. I think having left primary school and moving on to high school, it was very different because it's a different environment. There's more, people are a bit more different. You're allowed to be different. So I was kind of hanging out with some of the goths and the emos and and the rockers as well. And they stood out, in terms of having different hair colour and, kind of breaking the rules and kind of wearing their clothes differently and different music tastes, and I was really drawn towards that because I thought, you know what, rather than kind of try and be accepted and super accepted by everyone around me, perhaps, it's okay to kind of be different and to kind of stand out a little bit more. And they accepted me. They really accepted me for being into their kind of music and into their kind of styles, kind of clothes and stuff. And I guess that was around the time when I thought, I could probably maybe say something. I could probably kind of like see how that goes down with them, because there were quite a few bands back then in which, some of the lead singers, etc., were queer in some way. They were bi, or they were, they were gay, and like there were lots of people who were into David Bowie, and he was like, he was openly bisexual, and various other bands like Judas Priest, like the lead singer was gay.
So it's like you found your tribe, but it wasn't necessarily a gay tribe. You found your tribe through music.
Yeah, it was so important, like those the anti-establishment words that they'd sing about, etc. I thought, you know what, I'm trying so hard to be part of the establishment, but the establishment don't even accept who I am. So I came out to a couple of mates, and they were really good. They were great. They kind of accepted it. They thought it was quite cool. And then I came out to more friends, and I ended up losing most of my friends because they didn't understand what it meant to be gay, and they didn't want anything to do with me because they thought it was disgusting and perverted, because around that time in the newspapers it was seen as something that was very awful to be gay, because AIDS was still very much out in the public sphere.
Was this the 80s or 90s?
Yeah, this was the 80s, so it was kind of like, like AIDS was like this big thing, and it was seen as only affecting people who were gay. And so the response from lots of my friends was for them to not want to speak to me ever again. But then I had a small hardcore group of friends who they really were okay with me, and that really helped a lot. I also think what helped a lot as well was we were two teachers in my school. There was one teacher, I won't sort of mention him or what he taught, but he was very clearly gay, and he didn't seem to hide it, and he seemed to be quite proud. And there was another teacher who was trans, and she'd left the UK as a male, been to the United States and came back as female, and I just felt a real affinity with them. I felt this real affinity that it was almost like they were role models for me. Having actual live role models there. I don't think the role models in the media were people that I really felt an affinity with. It was the immediate role models in my life that I thought, wow, they're real people, and I can see them and speak to them.
So did they perhaps give you the strength to eventually come out to your parents then?
Yeah, I think they did, I think, my feelings have been building up for a long time. I was really getting very, very strong feelings. Those feelings were like kind of feelings towards other guys, wondering why I couldn't be with other guys as well. I mean, homophobia was still really rampant in the school, but I thought, you know what? I thought, this is something I need to do to be true to myself and to be honest to myself. And by that point, I'd started reading lots of stuff as well. So I'd started reading lots of books about kind of people's gay experiences. Lots of famous writers like James Baldwin. We'd read some of the war poets like Siegfried Sassoon and Wilfred Owen as well. And just kind of knowing that they were gay people, Oscar Wilde, made me think, wow, these are like kind of regular people, and there's nothing weird or strange or odd about them. And it was nice in a way, because I thought, well, if people can accept their difference, maybe they can accept my difference too. So I came out, and I was happy with the response that I got from some people. Told my parents, It was appalling. It was awful at first. It was heartbreaking for my mum. She was very tearful for such a long time because she didn't know what it meant. She was confused. Now, I'd heard both my parents make comments about gay people on TV, saying that they were disgusting and they were awful, saying that they were in league with Satan and this kind of stuff. You know, they'd point to these sort of queer people on TV and just have no understanding of what they were about. So my mum just needed time to kind of process stuff. She was very, very upset for a number of weeks, and we didn't really talk except over the dinner table. I really thought that they were going to kick me out. Then my dad, he reacted by saying that he could take me to the doctors because the doctor had tablets that could make me better and cure me of my gayness. So that was an interesting conversation. But what was great was I knew at a very deep level that there were no tablets that could treat gayness, that actually at that point in my life, I actually felt older than my dad in terms of wisdom, because I thought, wow, Dad, you do know that this is not something that's treatable and that there are no tablets that exist. And I told him that. I said, actually, Dad, there aren't any tablets that a person can take to stop their gayness. And he kind of conceded it. And then he kind of sat me down and he said to me that through his trade union, because he was like a shop steward, he was like a big trade unionist, he'd actually fought for some of the freedoms of some of the gay employers in his workplace, and he'd never really spoken about it. And he said that you know, he was always able to accept gay people in the workplace. He just couldn't accept his son being gay. Because it was too close to home and it felt too uncomfortable. So that made me really angry. I thought, hang on a minute, if you can befriend people in work and be okay with them, but you can't befriend me and I'm your son, I'm your kid, then I don't understand what that means for me. And there was a real sense of, there was a real pallor that this cast, you know, there was a real pall that it sort of cast on the household. Like, you know, it was really quiet and stuff. And
must have been very upsetting for you.
Yeah, very much so. I just felt like I actually knew what they were thinking. They were wondering how this fit in with their faith and with, you know, with being Muslim and not understanding where that fitted in with their faith. I did eventually tell my brothers. I've got two older brothers, and I remember telling each of them separately, with their girlfriends present, because I was so terrified that they were going to be physically violent towards me, that they were going to attack me in some way. But actually, their responses were just really wonderful. Like, both my older brothers said, look, you know, are you sure? Are you positive about this? And I was like, well, yeah. And I'd heard them come out with homophobic comments, like, throughout my entire life. So, and then they said, well, if anybody starts on you, just tell us and we'll beat them up for you, which was really nice of them. That was their way of letting me know that they still accepted me and, you know, were okay with me. But again, I could see that they needed some time. Both my older brothers they kind of let go of their religious beliefs at quite a young age, I guess, because I was the youngest. I was still trying to be the favourite of my parents, sort of thing, and be accepted by them, so kind of retaining, you know.
And being a good Muslim boy.
Being a good Muslim boy, yeah, that's what it's all about, you know. They were so proud of kind of parading me in front of other Muslims and saying, this is our youngest, and he's really good because he prays, like, you know, sort of every Friday, and he's at mosque every Friday, and he's, you know, this, that, and the other. I was kind of like the golden boy sort of thing, you know. They didn't speak to other Muslims about my older brothers because they'd seemed to have let them down in terms of not taking on the faith, you know.
So how long did it take for your parents to come round and fully accept it? Because I think that is the stage you're at now, isn't it? Yeah, they fully accept it now. It took a long time. I think it's been a real journey for them. I think it took them years. And I think as each month went by, they gradually, incrementally began to accept it more and more. They were happy to talk to me about everything except for that. They were happy to have my friends over as long as they didn't know about my friends being gay or not. They said, we don't need to know if your friends are gay.
we just want to know that they're your friends, and that's that. And I was like, right. In other words, you don't want to know if I've got a boyfriend. And it was a big learning curve for them, because they just didn't want to know too much personal stuff about me, too much details, and that upset me enormously, because I thought, well, actually, I don't want to lie to my parents. I don't want to hide from my parents. I want them to see me for who I am and not from who I'm pretending to be, because I pretended for such a long time. I'd hid for such a long time from people, and to reach that point of revealing myself and being open and honest was so liberating and freeing for me. And then having parents who were asking me to not be that open and to not be that liberating, and to not feel that liberated, almost felt as though they were kind of slowing down my pace. They certainly didn't want me to tell the extended family, absolutely not. They didn't want my aunts and uncles and cousins to know, because they were afraid of not only the way in which I'd be treated by the extended family, but how they'd be ostracised. They were so terribly worried that, you know, my aunts and uncles and cousins would cut them off, you know, and not speak to them ever again.
So how did that pan out then? What stage are you at now?
Well, now, I mean, like, most of my cousins know, because, like, you know, they're younger and they're a lot more open-minded. My aunts and uncles would rather not know. And my cousins, I don't think my cousins have told my aunts and uncles, so it's still something that is kept quiet. But yeah, my cousins are really cool about it, and some of them are gay, and, you know, or got friends who are gay, and yeah, they're absolutely fine. And what I can say about this stage in my life is things are very, very different. My parents are now politically very supportive of gay causes. They support gay marriage and gay equality. I've managed to reconcile my faith with my sexual and emotional orientation. So I'm able to be somebody who can still have a faith but still be gay as well. And a lot of the support that I got was online support from lots of services like Al-Fatiha. Al-Fatiha is a gay Muslim organisation. They have a chapter in New York and a chapter in London. And they've got an amazing website, a wonderful website, and it's there for gay and queer Muslims who are looking for answers, who still want to have the comfort of faith, but at the same time don't want to have to choose between their faith and their sexual and emotional orientation. So that really helped a lot. So yeah, I mean, I've reached that point now where, you know, as a fully formed, as I'd like to think, a fully formed sort of queer guy, I'm not fully formed in anything else in my life. I'm still learning, and I still will be until the rest of my life. But that's something I feel like really, really sort of happy about. And I'm out to everybody now. I'm out to my employer. I'm out to all the people I work with. You know, I don't really feel the need to hide anymore, because what I'd like to do, coming full circle, is do what those two teachers did for me, and be an out role model for other queer people. They really helped me, so now it's my turn to kind of give back. So that's why I'm out in every situation that I'm in, really.
Well, it's brilliant to see you have totally come full circle, and you're so happy with yourself and your life and your sexuality. So if there were people listening that are at the beginning of your journey, because it is quite a long journey, isn't it? But if there are people listening that are at the beginning of their journey, what little snippet of advice could you give them, do you think?
It's great to listen to others, but choose the voices that you keep inside your head. You don't have to keep all of them, especially self-doubting voices. We live in a heteronormative world in which, on a daily basis, we're told that we're not normal in subtle ways or in overt ways. What's really useful is to remind yourself that your queerness is positive, it's good, it's wonderful. Doing that morning affirmation to celebrate your queerness is so important. There are some great books online. You can go onto websites, book websites, and get some wonderful daily affirmation books for 365 days of the year, in which you can really help to undo some of that heteronormativeness that exists in the world. Certainly, I don't have a problem with heterosexual people, never have done, never will do. But we do live in a world in which there's a certain norm, and it makes us question ourselves, affects our mood and our confidence and our self-image. So yeah, kind of recognize that the culture out there doesn't always reflect who you are as a person. You can change that culture, but at the start of your journey, just know that the feelings you have are normal. Just know that the thoughts you have in your head are normal, and just know that what you feel is what you feel, and it's something that one day you'll feel so wonderful about, so happy about. Even if you're struggling, give it that extra time. Just give it that extra week or month or year, because it absolutely does improve.
Thanks so much to Richard for sharing his story with us and being so open. Please do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. We'd also love to hear from you on Twitter. You can find us there at Come Out Stories. I'm Emma Goswell, and Coming Out Stories is a What Goes On media production. Coming up next time, you'll hear from JP, a young Latino man growing up in LA.
Once you start really thinking about the gravity of what the sin is, quote unquote, then you almost feel like you're fucked, like you're going to hell, like there is no recourse for you, because that's basically what the Bible says.